This is quiz 4 for quadratics in Khan Academy. In this problem, it says the number of mosquitoes in Anchorage, Alaska, as a function of rainfall is modeled by this equation. And what they're trying to tell us is that this m right here, this is the number of mosquitoes, and the x's are the amount of rainfall. And so apparently, as you get more rain, you get more mosquitoes to a certain point. And then they have a question for us. How many centimeters of rain, in other words, what number for x, will produce the maximum number of mosquitoes? And we have a special way of finding a maximum when we have this type of problem. Let's take a quick look at this visually first before we do anything else. Okay, so this is Desmos, and I went and typed this equation in. Let's go ahead and see what the graph of this equation looks like. So I'll go ahead and turn it on, and you can see it's this red line. And let me go ahead and zoom out a little bit so you can see that it's actually shaped like a parabola. Okay, so there's the parts. And then at some point there's a maximum point to this parabola. And I want to show you guys something kind of interesting. Well, remember, x is the amount of rainfall and m is the number of mosquitoes, or m of x is the number of mosquitoes. Now watch this. I'm going to go ahead and click on this graph, and what I want to point out is as my x value goes up, my y value is also going up. And in fact, my x value is only going up a little bit, from like 0.2 to 0.3 to 0.4 to 1.2 to 1.9, but the y value is rising rapidly. What happens is, at some point, as x gets larger, we will get to a maximum y value, and then as x continues to get larger, what will happen is the y value actually goes down. In other words, when there's a little bit of water out there and it's puddling, mosquitoes love that and they can grow. But when there's too much water, it kills them and it diminishes the population. So there's a maximum point, there's a maximum number of mosquitoes. Now, the number of mosquitoes is in millions. When we go back, we'll take a look at that. But what I want to point out to you is this, is that if we want to find that maximum number of mosquitoes, what we need to know the axis of symmetry. We need to know the x-coordinate of the vertex. We need to know the middle of the parabola. Okay. Now, the middle of the parabola will tell us how much rain is needed, and then if we go up to the y value in the middle of the parabola, that will tell us the maximum number of mosquitoes. In this case, all that the question is asking us for is, thankfully, just how many centimeters of rain will produce the maximum number of mosquitoes. So all we have to do is find the x value, or the amount of rain that produces the maximum number of mosquitoes. We do not need to say how many mosquitoes. And by the way, when we get the number, if we get the number of mosquitoes, it would be in millions. The amount of rain will be in centimeters, so this will be the number of centimeters. So the way that we can find the middle of the parabola that we just saw is we're going to use this formula that we've seen before in the past. It's AOS, it's the axis of symmetry, and it goes like this. The x value will be equal to negative b over 2a. And that's just a formula that mathematicians learned a long time ago, and they make it easy for us. We don't have to figure it out on our own. Now, there are other ways to find the middle, but this is one way that we'll try, and you can put this formula on your reference card and use it on the test. Anyways, then we got to figure out what b and a is. So I want to remind you guys that y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. This is known as the standard form of the quadratic of a quadratic function or quadratic equation. And in standard form, we have a number in front of x squared and a number in front of x and then a number by itself. So in this case, what we have is a number in front of x squared. So our a is equal to, what is that number in front of the x squared? I think it's a -1. And then there's a number in front of the x, and so that'll be our b. And then we can use the a and the b to figure out what the axis of symmetry is. So we'll do x equals -b over 2 times whatever a is, -1. And that'll be x equals -14 all over -2 which is just positive 7. And supposedly that is the amount of rain, that should be 7 centimeters of rain that will produce the maximum number of mosquitoes. So I think that answer goes here. But since I'm using Desmos, I'm just going to double check and verify and see what it looks like. So when we come over here, I'm going to go ahead and put in a vertical line that says x equals 7. Remember Hoy-Vux, H-O-Y-V-U-X? Vertical lines are x equals, and they're undefined, Vux. So we will do x equals, okay, and that will get us a vertical line at 7, and that's our axis of symmetry. And I'm going to make it dashed because it's not really part of our graph, but it helps us to understand the graph better. And then I'm going to zoom out just a smidgen more so that we can see what happens. And sure enough, it looks like that line x equals 7 is where we have the peak of our parabola. And by the way, while we're here, I can show you something else, is that when x equals 7, the maximum y value is 49. And so that would be the answer if they were asking us what's the maximum number of mosquitoes that you have when it rains. And that would be in millions, of course. All right, that's all there is to it. Let me show you some other problems.